a meal a day to cope with recent cost of living.
Also this afternoon, fears Ghana's voters register may be compromised as Electoral Commission holds crunch meeting with the NDC to discuss discrepancies detected by the party.
Plus, government under intense pressure to show some commitment to getting fight against illegal mining back on track as Ghana's water sources remain under threat. This is News Central, and I'm Keminni Amanor.
And I am Mawuena Egbeta. The bulletin begins right now. This afternoon, government is under intense pressure to show some commitment to getting the fight against illegal mining back on track. The last 1 week has seen the nation's water company come out publicly to call for all to join the fight against illegal mining, indicating that water sources are under threat. The Lands Ministry has committed once again to dealing with the matter, but this is not impressing many. The video on your screen right now was taken this week at the Trifo-Praso Bridge by a citizen journalist, capturing yet again the impact of the illegal mining menace. In that same vein, the director of Radiological and Medical Sciences Research Center of the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, Professor Francis Hasford, has attributed the rise in Ghana's cancer cases to the activities of illegal mining that pollute water bodies and later transferred to food on the farm. Speaking to TV3, he said the current global cancer record of 2.3 million new cases annually, where Ghana now records about 4,500 new cases, with 50 of those cases resulting in death, requires urgent attention.
The world over, we record about 20 million cancers every year. And out of this, almost about 10 million, half of them die. In Ghana, we record 24,000 cancer cases every year. And out of this, about 15,000, representing about 65%, die off. When we break it down further, we get to know that 6 women die of breast cancer every day in Ghana. And this is very scary. Galamsey activities is also contributing a lot to these cancers that are coming up. We have what is called heavy metals in the substances that are used for Galamsey activities. And when they are used, then they enter into the water bodies. And these are the same water bodies that we use, that are processed for us to use in our homes. And once they get into the heavy elements, heavy metals get into these water bodies, it becomes difficult to remove them. And so...
Not even water treatment?
Not even water treatment, because there's a limit to which it can go. You have to do much more. And the chemicals that are used to treat these waters, if you want to now eliminate all these ones, that means you have to introduce more chemicals to treat, which also has this side effect. And so the issues of Galamsey activities is causing a lot. When you are watering these plants, you use the same water. And when these heavy metals get into the water, it is the same water that you are using to water your plants and all of that. And so it's more or less like cascading effect. Once one happens, it translates onto the other. These are the same food produce that are harvested to the homes, and we process them and we eat.
So it doesn't matter where you stay?
So it doesn't matter where you stay. Some activity can be happening somewhere, maybe in Ashanti region or wherever. But then the foods get to the Greater Accra. And then those of us will consume. So it doesn't matter where you stay. So it can affect you.
Now, former director of the Ghana School of Law, Ansar Sare, says the president must be impeached for putting his job on the line to end Galamsey and failing to do so. Speaking in an interview with TV3, he said the president must pay the price to resign for taking Ghanaians for granted.
One good reason why, for instance, the president ought to have been impeached long ago. The president put his job on the line and made a promise, gave an undertaking to the whole nation that if he failed us in the Galamsey fight, it will be at the cost of his job. So the price he will pay will be to resign. The president is still there. He's still, talking about Galamsey. And the people involved in Galamsey are his own ministers. If the president himself is not involved, but I very much doubt that the president is not involved. If the president were not involved, he would have found an antidote to solving this menace. But because he knows why he's not acting, you can be involved positively or negatively, directly or indirectly. If you are not involved directly, but you condone such activities, it's very much, being a participant.
The former director of the Ghana School of Law also said MPs must be held with the highest standards for recent comment on Galamsey.
A minister saying, comparing the contribution of the NDC government to environmental degradation of this country to that of the MPP government is no nonsense for a minister of state, to say that the NDC government did much more Galamsey than the MPP, and therefore it is a tacit assumption and acceptance or endorsement of Galamsey. If only Parliament knew the menace of Galamsey, such nonsensical talk will not take place in the first place in Parliament. Parliament is supposed to be a repository, of our legislators. And if our legislators are failing us, then where are we going to go?
Now, the labor unions are also worried about the situation in the country at the moment. General Secretary of NAT, Thomas Musa, has been speaking on this matter.
The level at which those engaged in Galamsey, they are doing it with impunity. That is where we are now. Somebody will ask, why is it that the teachers are not acting? It is somebody we will also ask. The military, the police, what's their duty? Are they not to protect life and property? The river body is not our property. Why are they not protecting it? So that is where we are now. That is where we are now. In the same way, we have the military, the police, and all those people. But the fight against the Galamsey is lost on us.
Let's move away from the conversations and the concerns in relation to illegal mining to one of yet significant concern, cost of living, because the recent cost of living crisis has heightened the vulnerabilities faced by informal sector workers, leading them to adopt negative coping mechanisms. Now, a study by TUC between October 2023 and July 2024 indicates that 9 out of 10 workers adopted adverse coping mechanisms, including eating once a day, renting textbooks for their awards, education, and moving back to their hometowns. Grace Hamajiman is sitting through the conversation. She's joining us right now with a bit more as to what this latest research has been saying about how you are coping with the cost of living crisis. Grace, many thanks for joining us. What more did the research find?
So this is a report put together by the Women in Informal Employment, Globalizing and Organizing, which is shortened as WIGO, and also the Trades Union Congress. The report is called the Accra Cost of Living Report, which was conducted between October 2023 and April 2024. It looked at the impact of the cost of living crisis that the country has recently gone through, looking at, with emphasis on the purchasing power of these informal sector workers, the expenditure of these informal sector workers, and also the coping mechanisms that they've had to adopt because of the impact of the cost of living crisis. So some of the findings that came out indicate that these workers mostly eat once a day, because their revenues have gone down and their expenditure have gone up. So they need to just eat once a day so they are able to balance it. What was also shocking from the findings is the fact that now parents in these informal sector workers are renting textbooks. I haven't heard this before, but it came out from the report that they are now renting textbooks for their children's education instead of buying the books because they cannot afford it. And some of these informal sector workers have also traveled or gone back to their villages because they think life is easier there than coming to live in Accra. Some of them also say they feel less secured where they live because they don't even live in any form of good structures, and so they also feel less secure. So these are some of the findings that came out from the book. Some of these workers also stay in Accra during the week and then go home during the weekends because they are not able to pay for the transportation in and out, or they are not able to pay going and coming every day. So these are some of the findings that came out of the report, especially workers or informal sector workers are now eating once a day. So they either do breakfast, which gives them the strength to be able to go through the day, and they don't eat again, or they do breakfast, they don't take lunch, and then later when they close from work, they also take their supper or their dinner and then go to bed. And then most of them are also bathing once a day because, again, these informal sector workers also live in structures or buildings that do not even come with proper sanitation resources. Most of them bath in public bathing centers, and so in order to cut down costs, they also bath just once a day, either in the mornings or in the evenings. Issues such as mental health for these workers also came up. Most of them say they are depressed. Some of them are suffering insomnia because of all the issues they've had to deal with in a day before their day ends.
Right, and out of all of the details, does the report provide some recommendations, course of action to which some amelioration can be put in place for these informal sector workers?
Yes, so the report has also given some recommendations which was sourced from these informal sectors. And first one, which I think is the most important for these workers, is the provision of some reliefs or economic packages to help them recover economically, because they say they source loans or grants from people or from agencies which come with a lot of interest rates, as much as 35%, and some of them have also had to pay daily. So even if they don't feel well to go to work, they will have to go to work in order to be able to raise what they have to pay as part of their interest or for their loans. And so they are looking forward to some form of relief package from government that can help them or invest back into their businesses. They are also asking for combined compliance methods of coping and vending or hawking. The issue about evictions also for these informal sector workers came up because they work in public places. There's the issue of Abaye, there's the issue of the AMA, there's the issue of other government task force agencies always on them, evicting them. So they are calling for dialogue from government to jaw on the most possible way in looking at how they can be able to work in one piece without any form of distraction coming from Abaye or any of these task forces that come from the AMA. The report also suggested investment in occupational and health safety for these informal sector workers. Some of them are exposed to vehicle knockdown, some of them are exposed to theft and burglary, and then so they've also made a request for investment into policies that will protect them from attacks or policies that will protect them from any hazards that come with the type of work that they do.
Right, and Grace, many thanks for those details, quite detailed as a matter of fact, but very interesting, Keminni, the fact that informal sector workers, a majority of them being forced to eat once a day, renting textbooks.
I didn't even know that existed.
That myself, Grace expressed surprise in relation to that as well. I'm surprised by that as well. And they are also being forced to take their bath once a day because of the challenges with the cost of living.
In fact, to start with, in certain places, the water is not there. Again, you know, relating to
the first story
issue
that we did,
absolutely,
Galamsey, and the fact that water treatment.
It's hard.
The question I asked Stephen is whether or not persons within the formal sector could afford to eat 3 times a day based on what it is.
I'm sure there are many people who are skipping lunch at work, not because they're busy, but because they do not have the money to buy the foods they require. So, bad times, hard times. Right?
Hard times, yeah. Really.
Anyway, let's turn attention to your election command center now. This afternoon, there are fears Ghana's voter register may be compromised despite the Electoral Commission assuring of having a robust system in place to check tampering of data. The Commission this week admitted illegal voter transfer had been conducted through the use of credentials of an official of the electoral body. The opposition NDC has since been demanding a full-scale forensic audit to determine the accuracy of the electoral roll. The party is set to meet the EC later today, despite the Commission turning down a request for live coverage of this event. More on all of that shortly, but a bit of focus on the issues that have come up so far. Let's take a look at that quickly. We know that the Electoral Commission's provisional register has been a thorny issue between the opposition NDC and the Electoral Commission themselves. Some of the concerns that have been raised so far include missing names, misplaced qualified voters, individuals who are qualified to vote but have been wrongly placed on the exception list or the multiple list, and remove disqualified voters, persons who were disqualified due to multiple registrations or successful challenges but remain on the main provisional voter register, and unauthorized transfers. We also know that some of the EC's findings since the NDC made some of their own findings public include voter transfers were effected for 38 individuals using the credentials of an Electoral Commission official. And then photos of the voters from their voter ID cards were used for facial verification and to effect the transfers. A bit more on that. Some measures and further actions that have been taken. Liveliness check introduced in the verification process to ensure that the biometric data being captured is from a live, present human being and not from a spoofed source such as a photograph. This has since been built into the system to prevent any such future occurrences. The Commission does not have any evidence to believe that this occurrence is widespread. In the Pusiga district area, we know an electoral officer was suspended and invited for questioning. And the Electoral Commission reassures that they are fully minded that the voter register is the bedrock and foundation of the election. And they are well aware that a credible voters register is sine qua non for a transparent, peaceful, and fair election. The Commission is committed to conducting and delivering free, fair, transparent, peaceful, credible and inclusive elections in December 2024. They go on to say that we entreat the general public to support the Commission for successful general elections in 2024. Now, Dr. Edward Danso Anson is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana focusing on cybersecurity and computer forensics and security. He joins us for a bit more on this. Doc, good afternoon to you. What do you make of the transfer that took place, looking at the fact that there was a use of, the photograph to verify the voter against the person actually being there? Should we even have this in the first place?
And I would say a simple no, that a system as high as the voters registration machines shouldn't have had this flaw or vulnerability in at all, because even the more or less secured systems that we have that we implement in our various institutions is even able to detect this particular flaw. So The simple answer I would give is that this particular vulnerability or flaw shouldn't have actually been on the system at all.
I see. So, one of the things we've heard from the Electoral Commission is that, contestation of the provisional voter register is normal. But when you look at this new feature that has been introduced, from your own knowledge and experience, would you say that it is robust enough to deal with the situation, what they call the liveliness feature?
Yes, the liveliness feature is very, very critical in this because once the officials who were culpable or were involved in this were able to detect the flaw that were registered on the system, and for people to even start thinking of experimenting and trying other options in being able to carry out transfer, such as the use of the photo ID card and all that, tells you a lot about the officers that are recruited for this exercise. We shouldn't lose the fact that these are not Electoral Commission officials. These are people who are recruited from outside. And then most of the time, it's very likely that these people may have some IT background and all that, and they want to be able to carry out such things. But one of the things that also didn't go down well with me was the fact that the system was able to carry out this exercise even beyond the normal time, because during these transfers there were no major queues, at the various stations and all that. So the system should have provided what we call as the multi-factor authentication, where if it's go beyond a certain point, or if there are some particular task or activities that needs to perform, a higher authority should have been required, and for every login, right, such particular, systems need to be implemented. For instance, even when location changes, the system shouldn't even allow for a change in location of these systems, because normally such illegal transfers are not conducted or carried out at the station where they are registered to be able to do their transfer. So I think major, investigations and
very well
needs to be carried out.
But even, Doc, outside of multi-factor verification, the issue you raised with the staff they are employing, who may not necessarily be, a permanent staff of the Electoral Commission, there could be multi-level verification, so that a situation in Pusiga where, a staff decided to use an electoral official's number to do what they did will not occur. But you think that the system we have built and spent so much money on will be able to do that? My question then to you is, what more can we do to ensure that, listen, despite going manual in the first 2 days of the registration process, they assured us that when they come back, everything will go back to normal. Despite the contestations that we have had and their own admissions, we will enter the the elections with a solid and a very robust electoral system.
Yes, I know that the verification machine being used by the EC has a very secured log access and log files that can be able to provide us with detailed information about what time a particular transfer was done and so on and so forth. It's very simple. Whenever there are any anomalies in the registration or the transfer of any voter in terms of the time and then the location, the system should be able to pull all such files out, all such transfers out, in order to carry out an audit of this particular, because I know that the system has a very strong audit trail.
I see, Doc, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you, too.
Dr. Edward Anson is a cybersecurity expert. We've been discussing the safety and security of our voter register on the back of the, the biometric devices and the entire system that has been built to support elections.
We'll stay on that subject because the Deputy Director of Elections and IT of the NDC, Dr. Rashid Tanko Computer, says the party is ready to demonstrate that the current voters' role is not credible.
Since '92, we've been doing this exercise. We've never seen a situation where massive illegal transfer of voters from one constituency to another without their knowledge. This is completely unacceptable. This is the first time. It has never happened. Look at their response to us. They decided to hide away the transfer issue. Why haven't they talked about the transfers? Who told you anytime we do exhibition, you see issues of transfer, people's name be illegally transferred? How? Because transfer, you cannot do it without appearing before a returning officer in the consequence. And so if you are not see that your name has been moved from one consequence to another, that's illegal. That is why they interdicted one of their offices. And so this is the first time we are seeing such a massive distortion of data of electoral commission. That is why we want this transparent process, so that the public will get to understand what is in the register and what led to that. That's what we are just trying to do. We are going there with our own equipment. We are going with our projectors and laptops. I meant to do the presentation. But we will find innovative means of getting you this media to cover the program.
More on that shortly, but earlier this week, the Electoral Commission maintained it is committed to a credible election.
This is a transparent and inclusive process that is not exclusive to the EC. Therefore, unless they can show any proof, those alleging that the Commission is trying to cook data should be ignored. As a Commission, we continue to demonstrate and reflect the values of transparency, integrity, and fairness in all our operations. We are fully mindful that the voters' register is the bedrock and foundation of an election. We are well aware that a credible voters' register is a sine qua non for a transparent, peaceful, and fair election. The Commission is committed to conducting and delivering free, fair, transparent, peaceful, credible, and inclusive elections in December 2024. We entreat the general public to support the Commission for successful general elections in 2024.
This is your election command center, and you're watching News Central. When we come back, we'll hit the campaign trail. Don't go away.
This is still your election command center. We're going on the campaign tour right now. And we're starting off with the Vice President, Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia, who is continuing his Greater Accra regional tour, this time in the Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency, an area which will be of keen interest considering the individuals contesting for the parliamentary seat in that particular area. The current Sanitation Minister, Leader Sarah Malhassan, is the Member of Parliament for the area, but is facing stiff opposition from her 2020 contender, John Dumelo, of the NDC. Dr. Bawumia has taken his campaign tour there, and as you've seen, characteristic of all of his tour, on the ground, meeting and greeting a lot of the constituents. Let's touch base with George Queenin, who's following the Vice President this afternoon for some bit of details. George, talk to us. What's it been like? We've seen some of the pictures and videos, but talk to us about how well the Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency has welcomed the party's flag bearer.
Thank you, Mawuena. Thanks for having me. Like you actually mentioned, the flag bearer has, it's continuing his Greater Accra constituency tour, and then he's actually wrapped up with the Ayawaso West Wuogon tour, where he had a meet and greet session in some neighborhoods, and went to Tesano and had a stakeholder engagement that may pass them at Ayawaso West Wuogon. We had a chief of staff there from Mopar, who was also a former MP for the area, and then she actually touched on the competence and capabilities of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, saying that there has never been a time where Nana Akufo-Addo has chastised Bawumia over his competence. He has had no qualms of him, and so what that means is that will come to play when he's given a nod as president. So he's humble and he's an honest person. So if these traits are anything to go by, then he's the right person to give it the presidency. And also, Leader Alhassan also would vote from, elected that she's also the right person to, lead them with all the development that have been undertaken in the constituency. And so she should be given the nod and another nod for the president, Bawumia aspect. So that's how it's been so far. But as it stands now, we are heading to Madina and the Adensa constituency, and that's what happened the whole tour for the day.
Let's listen to the Vice President and what he's been saying, and then perhaps we'll get an understanding of what is expected ahead of him at the Madina constituency.
But it could be 14 years ago. 14 years. Let me nearby. Sambre no nami wa Oxford University. Na me book because Africa and Ghana, you have 2 power. Just say the economy is not eco-digital because that is where the world is going. Problems between the eco-digital, you bring a solution. First problem na you need national identity. And I say you Ghana card. And then you Ghana card no 18 million Ghana cards you issuing. And then Ghana card no boy in the fight against corruption. And then nobody can fake identity in Ghana. The problem now with ghost workers no. Ghana card I best solve this problem. No more ghost workers. And then Usha yedi Ghana card no call snitch because someone for there goes there almost need fingerprint. And yes, almost need fingerprint. And do the Ghana card
on purpose.
Thinking about what he had in his book 14 years ago, at the time he was at the Oxford University, amongst many other things, what can aid the Ghanaian economy, and you guess right, the Ghana card and its implementation and what it is that has been done with regards to the Ghana card and how it's aiding to eliminate ghost names, amongst many other things. Let's round up the conversation with George Queenin just briefly. George, you mentioned he's headed towards the Madina constituency. Where next from there?
He's run up with the Ayawaso West Wuogon. So from Madina, he will head to Adensa, and that will wrap up the whole day. But it will be clamorous with a community connect, where there will be more like a rally at the park at Adensa to really run off the entire, activities for today at
Right then, George. Many thanks for those details. George Queenin, following the Vice President and NPP flag bearer on his Greater Accra regional tour.
Now, flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, has affirmed his resolve to investigate and appropriately compensate victims of the Techiman South violence. A Wenchi High Court ordered a 270,000 cedi compensation for 6 out of the 8 victims, but some of the families of the deceased are rejecting the compensation.
It remains a single blot on the December 2020 elections where the victims were described in a most dehumanizing term.
Do we commiserate with the families of armed robbers we shoot?
Are the people who died armed robbers or are they criminals?
Were they in the process of committing a crime? Let's determine that.
After several engagements deemed by some members of the political class as unjust attitudes of state security apparatus opening fire on innocent victims, some respite has come from the court for 6 of the victims. Mother of Tajuddin Al-Hassan, who lost his life in the violence, leaving behind 4 children, feels disrespected.
I have been mocked severally on this issue and alleged money I have not even gotten. They should keep their money. I don't even need it. If my son was alive, I would have gotten more than this. But I believe in John Mahama when he says he will get justice.
As elections inches closer, it appears the people of Techiman South are looking at hindsight.
That yes, what they have done to us, meaning that we are not Ghanaians or what? There is no justice since these boys were shot and killed.
With an overwhelming win in 2020 elections in the Techiman South constituency, John Mahama's entry into the constituency sent the crowd agog. Polls by Global Info Analytics suggest the MPP could sweep the parliamentary seat as against the NDC. John Mahama is warning against disunity and disloyalty.
They deserve appropriate compensation. We will bring justice and finality to this matter.
So one to abani ya, and so ewo. So what to ni so and also betenka. Enti abato ayebeto 7 December 2024. It was said yede yenyansa and no kre and eto sabano.
For the candidate Christopher Bayre, a plea for unity is his call. The convoy proceeded thereafter to Ikranza South. A fired up John Mahama says with the policy propositions in the People's Manifesto for a reset of the country, the elections cannot be lost by the NDC.
We share $58 million. No? And yes, I'm the chair contractor no. And Crophobia yendim omo. You see, we na year drawing B now you take $20-something million near the mano. Yes.
They have sunk $58 million into the world's most expensive hole. That money is not even for the contractor. Some architect and a cabal of friends has been given money we could have used for something else. We will investigate this.
About $58 million echi. I'm not a siankwa and a daho. Into my case, so say about Sa National Cathedral no, and also Yabeshim.
Komlak Luche, TV3 News in Kranza.
On Constituency Watch this afternoon, incumbent Member of Parliament for the Botiano English Yamanfo constituency, Sylvester Tete, says he will be rewarded in the upcoming general elections for his ability to bring development to the constituency. But his opponent from the NDC, Felix Akwete Okle, believes he is the right candidate for constituents. Here's a report by my colleague Frederick Kunzotiani.
Created in 2012, the Botiano English Yamanfo constituency is noted for its diversity, with a mix of middle-class and low-income residents. Fishing and small-scale trading are significant occupations for the inhabitants. Youth unemployment, infrastructure development, poor road networks, and inadequate health facilities are major concerns for the electorate. In an engagement with TV3's Community Manifesto during a visit to the constituency, incumbent MP and Chief Executive Officer of the National Youth Authority, Sylvester Tete, expressed confidence in retaining his seat.
What I've done, it dazes and it marvels my opponent here. I've delivered, the MPP government has delivered in terms of infrastructure, the ongoing, those that have been completed. The constituency is Botiano, Englishi, Amanfrum, 3 big traditional areas and many other communities. Every community you go, there's a handiwork of the MPP and Sylvester Tete in that community.
However, the parliamentary candidate for the NDC, Felix Akwete-Okle, argues that the incumbent has been out of touch with the everyday concerns of constituents.
I always say that saying is easier than done. You could come and tout to yourself so many things that you have done, but the people are here to attest to if really you have done those things on the grounds. It is never true that he has done anything meaningful for the people of Botiano or English Amanfro.
Both parties claim to have the best policies tailored to the needs of residents in the Botiano English Amanfro constituency.
For somebody to go and queue and vote for you, then when you come, when the person calls you, you don't pick it. Botiano English Amanfro people are crying for development. Botiano English Amanfro people are crying for a good leader to lead them, and there's nobody they have settled on. Nobody they have settled on than Felix Akwete.
The NDC candidate, obviously he lacked knowledge of legislation. So such a person, when you vote for him, is more scary and more dangerous for the community. That is why we've worked so hard to keep the hope in the young people of this community. You have a government that we've delivered free SHS for the people of this community. Many more of them in their homes, but for Nanado and free SHS, they would have had their children still at home. Nanado has delivered that. That is why they should vote for Baumia and vote for me.
With the election just months away, the contest is expected to be fiercely competitive as both parties vie for the swing constituency. Voters in Botiano English Amanfro will face a clear choice between the seasoned incumbent and the rising opposition challenger.
Who can stop for that market? All our lives.
From the constituencies, we can take you to the regions.
Sisala Development Network, SIDNET, says government should speed up the progress of development in Sisala to help improve the well-being of the people there. In an interview with TV3, the chairman of SIDNET, Professor Roger Adamuluri Canton, said the depressing state of development in areas such as health, agriculture, and road infrastructure is doing more harm than good to the people of Sisala. There's more in this report by Kyofori Wadako.
Located in the Upper West region of Ghana, Sisala has 4 districts, which are Sisala East, Sisala West, Lambose, and Wa East. There have been records of disparity in the level of development in Sisala, causing an outrage among the indigents who feel marginalized.
The next government, whether MPP or NDC, if they don't respond to these our pleas, then they can forget it. We will not support them in any of these areas that we have a comparative and competitive advantage in, particularly in agriculture. We would say enough is enough.
Pressing issues in Sisala include the deplorable nature of roads, linking settlements, and the interregional highway, which is the Wa-Tumu-Chuchuliga road. Also, there is the lack of a major referral hospital in the area, resulting in all cases being referred to Wa or Tamale. According to the chairman of SIDNET, Professor Roger Adamuluri Canton, although the indigents of Sisala have been silent for years, now the 4 districts of Sisala would join forces to intensify the call for all these issues to be addressed.
Our roads are so bad, particularly the road from Bolga, Navrango, Chichulga, Tumu, Hian, Tua. In fact, I know in the constitution, during the wrong side, it has been stated that all regional capitals should be linked with asphalt roads. The Upper West and Upper East is the only region that haven't got that asphalt.
The Deputy Upper West Regional Minister and MP for Sisala East constituency, Amidu Isahaku Chinya, assured the people of Sisala of improved livelihoods in Sisala.
When we talk about the Sisala area development, you can't reduce it to one particular place. If probably Tumu doesn't get and other Sisala areas are getting, it still adds up to, because we are fighting for the total development of the Sisala area.
SIDNET has developed an action plan on the development of the Sisala area for the year 2024 and beyond. It entails the development objectives, needs and goals. Ekia Oferiwa Dako, TV3 News, Accra.
That'll be all for Regional Hub. You're watching News Central. I'll be back with more news. Don't go away.
Rises, there is hope. While this hope lingers on,
For you this afternoon, the Ghana Mine Workers Union has served notice of picketing at the Jubilee House on Monday, September 16, to demand that government terminates the mining lease of future global resources. At a news conference in Accra, General Secretary of the Mine Workers Union, Abdul Mumin Bana, said the union will proceed with a series of actions in the coming days to ensure government revokes the mining contract of the company.
In April this year, the Ghana Mine Workers Union and its members picketed at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources to demand the revocation of the mining lease of Future Global Resources. The sector minister, Abu Jinapo, gave the management of Future Global Resources 120 days to invest capital to revive the mine and earmark funds to pay the outstanding salary arrears of the workers and their benefits. However, the 120 days have expired. The Ghana Mine Workers Union are worried the sector minister and government have failed to revoke the mining lease of Future Global Resources. This is angered the leadership of the Ghana Mine Workers Union, who have decided to picket at the Jubilee House on Monday, September 16.
Going by the minister's letter of April 17, 2024, which reads, should the company fail to meet any of the above conditions, the conditional approval given shall be deemed revoked. And I stress that, deemed revoked, and the mining leases terminated without further recourse to the company. It therefore goes without saying that since FGR failed woefully to meet all these conditions, at the end of the 120-day notice, the conditional approval is deemed revoked and the mining leases terminated without recourse to the company. Choboy, let me therefore state without any equivocation that the claims by FGR that the Bogoso Christian mines are open for business is factually inaccurate. The union and all its members across the mining industry of Ghana shall converge in front of the Jubilee House to picket and present a petition to the President of the Republic. From the Jubilee House, the union and its members shall process to the premises of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, where we shall converge and picket up till the end of the day.
Now, more than 90% of African businesses, including those in Ghana, are operating without adequate cybersecurity measures, leaving the continent's cyberspace highly vulnerable. This alarming statistic was highlighted at the 2024 Regional Cyber Drill for Africa, jointly organized by the ITU and Interpol in Accra.
At the 2024 Regional Cyber Drill for Africa, the ITU revealed that over 90% of African businesses lack proper cybersecurity protocols, putting the continent's digital security at significant risk.
More than 90% of African business operate without adequate cybersecurity protocols in place, which means that Africa's cyberspace is at risk, and a lot of efforts need to be put in place to properly secure it.
Meanwhile, the Cybersecurity Authority has so far accredited over 1,400 professionals to deal with existing and emerging cyber threats.
Ghana has introduced what we call accreditation of cybersecurity professionals as part of our collaborative regulatory interventions.
Government is, however, set to unveil a new national cybersecurity policy and strategy to strengthen the country's digital infrastructure.
The strategy document has been approved by the Cabinet of Ghana and is expected to be adored in the next month during the Cybersecurity Month, as you know, we celebrate in this country.
The ITU Interpol Regional Forum was themed, Bridging the Gap, Building the Future.
Now, West African collaboration with the MasterCard Foundation has hosted the second edition of its EdTech Education Forum aimed at fostering dialogue on the development of policies to advance technology integration into Ghana's educational system. The forum brought together stakeholders to discuss how technology can transform the future of education in the country.
The event focused on key strategies to enhance the use of digital tools in teaching and learning, highlighting the importance of creating a conducive policy environment that encourages the adoption of technology in schools and universities. The MasterCard Foundation's representative echoed sentiment, highlighting the foundation's commitment to supporting initiatives that bridge the digital divide in education.
It's a platform in which we demystify the use of technology in education, the wins, the challenges, and how everyone, the whole community, can come together, policymakers, inter-community, users, development partners, to talk about what we need to do in various aspects of education and technology.
participants emphasized that while digital education has gained momentum, the need for robust infrastructure, teacher training, and a student-centered approach remains critical for effective implementation.
At St. Louis, we pay attention to 5 key areas to make sure we are really catching up when it comes to EdTech. We look at policy. There has to be policy to govern the space, to make sure we're actually ready for adaptability of technology.
Discussions during the forum also covered the challenges facing the integration of technology into education, including the need for affordable internet access, sustainable funding for digital learning initiatives, and the development of localized content that reflects Ghana's culture and context. The EdTech Education Forum is part of ongoing efforts by MEST and the MasterCard Foundation to create an inclusive and innovative educational system that leverages technology to improve learning outcomes.
Now bring us almost to the end of this afternoon's edition of the Bulletin. And listen, we know we stream on Facebook. A lot of you follow, you drop messages, and we don't really do this. Perhaps I might have to do this one today.
Yes,
in
really
relation
important.
To that story we brought you about
the cost
of living. Look, while we were on air, my phone mostly is somewhere else, but I saw a message where someone almost swearing in that particular message that the reality as painted and the details provided to us by Grace was 100% true. I'll not review the profession of the individual, but it says he resorted to drinking water till evening before going home to get something to eat. And that's a message that was sent to my phone, and that was yesterday. And how they are proceeding with going through the rest of the day, paying fees and all of that, they don't know who they can go to and ask for money. And so these are realities.
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes we do the story and people feel as though it's a bit abstract and it's exaggerated. People are sending direct messages to us confirming the difficulties that they experience more often than not. And so, indeed. I mean, heartbreaking sometimes.
I mean, for a lot of people, something has got to give, and what gives is the food.
Yeah.
You know, they can't do 3 times. They have to do 1. They'll have to do 2 times, just so they can pay other bills. Yeah. You know, and that's the reality of a lot of people, like the gentleman who sent you the message. Right,
let's scan quickly as we head out for this week. Do that, pick up your phone, smartphone, scan that QR code and join the 3 News WhatsApp family. That's where you find all the details from the news cards on how individuals are struggling to be able to get food to eat, and so slashing it down to 1 time, once in a day, and a lot more. Find that and a lot more videos on our 3 News WhatsApp channel. That's our bulletin for today and for the week. I am Mawuena Egbeta.
I hope you can afford lunch today. I'm Keminni Amanor. We'll see you same time Monday. Bye-bye.